Dear Venerable brothers and sisters, Dhamma friends, this is our second question and answer session, the third day of our retreat. There are written questions available. I will continue with this. Meanwhile, I invite, if anyone have any kind of other questions or statements, you all are welcome. Thank you, Bhante, for changing the time of the Dhamma talk. For the first time, I actually heard and followed the whole talk, not bits and pieces between nods. I feel so inspired. Okay. The second one, Thero Venerable Bhante, like the no pain, no pleasure, the middle path of feeling, what is the middle path of perception? What is the point where one gets to be one to the sati of the state of equilibrium? I hope you can understand my question. So this is what I try to communicate. Maybe the idea is not little obscure. As far as you have kind of a normal perception in the day-to-day perception, or otherwise if you are in a no perception, like in the 7th and 8th jhana, or you are not falling into sleep, or you are not unconscious, there is a kind of a consciousness which cannot be defined. That is what the middle path as far as the conception, the perception is concerned. That is the particular stanza, Nasanya sanyi, nopi visanyi, nopi asanyi, na vibhuta sanyi. There's a kind of elimination process. This is not the day-to-day perception. That is related to the senses and the sensuous impingements. Or you are not asleep, not unconscious, not dead, and you are not in the nivasanyana asanyayatana or asanya, the akinchanyayatana. That means not asanyi. There's a kind of this thing, as if when you are trying to perceive in between in-breath and out-breath, there's a gap. So when you are perceiving it, when you are awakening into it, we are fully vigilant to it, you perceive something undeniably, but very difficult to put into words. That's a kind of a indication that perception has now come to somewhat middle, but that the particular gap in between the in-breath and out-breath, or gap between the pleasure and the pain, or gap between two thoughts, they are very transient. But sometimes when you are calming down the breath, you can go to that state and experience sometimes for a while. When it is happening for the first time, you feel like you have fallen into sleep. When you come back, get a jerks, because you can't remember. It is not along the dimension of time and the space, so you feel like a sleep. Come back. Later you can awaken into that, and you know, I am not asleep, I am not fainted, I am not dead. But sense impingements also not going to come and do any kind of thing. And even I can't feel the breath, but nothing to worry. There's a kind of a equilibrium, there's a kind of a balance there. And it is like a balance when you are maintaining when you are walking on the right tightrope, kind of a balance with respect to the perception. So that is that stanza is going to, it is representing the perfect level, but when you are calming down the breath, you come halfway to that state. But the thing is, your rational mind never accept this as a balanced state. Rational mind always wanted to communicate with others, find a relationship to the time, find a relationship to the space. Then you are missed the bus. That means your egoistic idea is working. Your conceit is working. Or kind of a desire works. So therefore you have to do this trial and error. Ultimately, we'll slowly go there and be there, season it, familiarize it, up to the point it becomes your second nature, and feel the balance. But the problem is you can't communicate, you can't express that it doesn't matter. Those who have not perceived it definitely will question, including your rational mind. But anyone who has observed and perceived it, definitely there's a kind of a communication, that understanding happening. What is not manifestive consciousness? So just wait. Now we are on the perception. Gradually we will go to the volition and the consciousness. There sometimes we can tackle this. What is the non-manifestive consciousness? So for the moment, I am suspending this question, and in the Dhamma talk, in 1 or 2 days' time, or most probably, we will be taking this subject. Yeah, thank you, and yeah.
Coming to the statement, how would you correlate it to the Buddha statement in his advice to Bahia? In the scene is just the scene, in the cognized is just the cognized, and you realize it, you're neither in it, nor out it, nor in between.
Yeah. So that is why that's a very clear statement. Neva ida, na hurang, na ube mantare, ese vanto dukkasa. You are not, as far as the sensuous impingements are concerned, you are not recognizing what you see. You are not assuming what you see. You are not assuming what your eye consciousness or sensitivity of the eye. And you are not in between also. The seeing happens, but it is merely stopping at the seeing level, no much of proliferations. So there is no volition, no karmic forces, no suffering, even at that moment, and there is no seeds for the future to mature. So the Buddha says that it itself is the Nibbana. What happens is, often we recognize or assume what I have seen is what I see. Or sometimes you perceive, my eye is so sharp, I am lucky that I had that scenery. So these are the way we assume each other. And one or the other enough. They are fulfilling the other party. Whenever you see that I see this object, moment you assume it, your ego is also boosting. The station also manifested. Otherwise, if you assume that I am here, definitely you see things. That means what you see, that you are. If you see this as an auspicious one, your mind is at that moment very auspicious. If you see this thing as ugly and something, nothing not to see, that means your mind is in hatred. What you see is that you are. So therefore not assuming this as such, not assuming the base as such, and still the seeing happens, but no, nothing to go to the memory, no engraving in the time series or in the space series, so therefore no volition. So that is why there is no seeds, there is no karmic forces arising. And so it is also yet another way explaining this inner space, this kind of a whole body experience. You are experiencing it, but nothing goes to memory. Not only that, you can't express to someone also, because it is difficult to put into words. So of course it is not only limited to the perception, even to the volition through in terms of volition. Instead of consciousness, you can explain the same. Because everyone is not caught up in the situation in the same manner. Some are caught up in the materiality, some are caught up in the feelings, some are caught up in the perception, some are in the volition, and some are in the consciousness. So when the discourse is given, Buddha is giving for applying to the everyone in the common, and so some people may entertain when the perception is explained, but not when the volition is explained. Yet another person may entertain when the volition comes, but he or she can't see why this perception is so important. So it's a overall coverage. Bahya Sutta and Malunke Putta Sutta, and here many places he has used very economical usage of words, but cut through and then explaining the situation.
Also in relation to seeing, I was thinking of the eyelid today. Like for instance, I'm thinking the eyelid maybe it was manifested not only for protection of the eye from drying up or being infected or something, but also, like I was noticing my eyelids keep closing so many times per minute, and if it didn't close, it would be so scary because if I walk and it open all the time and the mind is working on it, and if you see the true nature of things all the time, it would be scary, isn't it?
That is called the fear of freedom. We are freedom fighters. When the freedom manifests, we run away. We are no more. We are when the real thing happens. We are praying, we are praising, and we are waiting for the truth to happen, the freedom to happen, the liberation to happen. When the liberation comes, we feel like boring. We feel like cornered. We feel like lost. We feel like disinterest, we feel like irritation, so we feel like monotonous. So you are asking, is there any something better than this one? This is called the fear of freedom. It has been fairly developed by Erich Fromm. There's a book written on Erich Fromm, The Fear of Freedom. But not directly talking about this liberation as such. But he has got acquaintance with the Zen Buddhism and a lot of Buddhist ideas. So he has written this fear of freedom. It's a joke. It's a joke because we are fighting with the wholeheartedly and giving up our relatives and the money and come here and fighting. When the freedom comes, the liberation comes, we feel cornered like, boring like, monotonous like, and sometimes we doze and go into sleep. And then again asking, can you tell me the shortcut to go to the liberation? Shortcut is little longer than the normal cut. So this has to be acquainted with, because the other wiseness, the running away from the liberation, also a conditioning of the mind. In order to understand, in order to decondition it, in order to de-learn it, you have to do other way around. Introduce it even though it is boring, again and again. Practice it again and again, because out of the faith on the Buddha, as a restrainment. So one day, you will feel that as your second nature, and then you will see it is not something earned from the meditation. It was there already, but now only you are ready to accept it. Only the correct view has been straightened, then only the communication going to take place. So therefore, by enlightening, you gain nothing. By enlightening, you lose nothing. It's just the arrangement of the perspective, arrangement of the view. So therefore it is a magical effect, but not in the materialistic sense, not in the political, economical or social sense, but it's a huge change as far as the orientation is concerned, as far as the view is concerned, as far as the foresight is concerned. You have to speak louder.
Going back to what Sister Nero was saying before, and if you take it to the breath, say you don't have the breath manifesting anymore, so obviously you're at a stage where you can't generate, verbalize, you can't communicate what you're experiencing. At that point, in terms of the object, the primary object, you're not generating a thought. So you won't be generating mental thought.
Still I can't listen to you, I can't hear you.
Okay. With the breath, when it disappears in your awareness, can you hear that?
Yes.
So when at that point you can't communicate what you're feeling, what you're observing. So do I understand that to mean then that at that point you don't generate thoughts or mental proliferation, but any memory that you could have of a past event could still trigger thoughts, but you're not generating thoughts on the basis of what you're observing?
Yeah, that is why that not at the early part of early training, early seasoning, early familiarization. Once you come up there and season it, your mind become open. So either feeling or the perception or volitional thing can come. And when it happens, when that kind of the affective or connotative or cognitive things are going to happen, you can definitely see it is unrelated to the present moment. It is happening out of the blue. Out of the things happen. But anyway, you have kind of a familiarity. So main thing is to disclaim it and try to come back to the same, this unexplainable perception. And don't suppress them also. Don't entertain them also. It is natural now because your the transgression kind of defilements are out. Obsession kind of defilements are out. Now therefore, either Chetana or Pakappana or Anusaya. Chetana means the volition. Pakappana means your future planning. Anusaya means that underlying tendencies can come out. So it is a very good thing. It is a catharsis. It's going out of the pent-up energies or emotions. So you must observe it as it is a healing process, catharsis process, rather than assuming this is good, this is bad, this is thought. Nothing that you are having a choiceless awareness and be fully aware, fully vigilant, and you can understand these things, the thoughts arising at that moment, and some kind of planning and kind of thing. They are never volitional, they are never with will, they are never with your intention, but they are happening. Now only you can see clearly, because you already managed to get rid of this the transgression and the obsession. It can happen. So at that moment, it takes long time for you to let it happen in the completely natural way. Don't try to accelerate. Don't try to be smart on it. So it is deconditioning going to taking place, and they are as far as Chetana is concerned, volition is concerned, you can restrain yourself. You can be prepared not to have. Pakappana, that means future planning also, you can recognize. But the anusaya, when it happens, you have no controlling power. It comes, it bubbles here and there. Only thing you can do is just observe it. Just observe in a distant manner. That is the crux of the meaning of vipassana. You just see and wait. I don't know, I really got your question. I thought that you are raising the question, the thought arising at that moment.
I guess my question was essentially whether when we see positive objects and description, we have thought, we can verbalize, we can describe, we have communication. But when things neutralize, like i.e. the breath, and it doesn't sort of produces the quality of having
in the outward, etc. You can't really verbalize the essence there. So at that point, thoughts, like if we take back to say a scene, as Sister Yorga was saying, at that point you won't be able to generate thought based on the object that is caught by ice and futility.
That means you have no chances to proliferate more and more, because mind is more towards the calming down, not to entertain in proliferation. Proliferation is in Pali called as papanchakarana. Papancha means that bubbling up. So bubbling up taking place, but you know you are not worrying about, you are not agitated by that. You just try to disclaim it and try to calm down. Try to come back to the equanimity. Try to come back to this unexplainable perception, not worrying about that. Because you know it is not, even if it happens, you have no volition to do that. You can't think, because whenever you are going to think, you have to assume something. You have to have a conceit, a comparison. You have to have a kind of a desire, but now you have already learned not to have them in the transgressional level, not to have in the obsessional level. Here also, Bhaddekaratta means you are maximizing, or you become the ideal lover of the solitude. So therefore, if you go into the analytical mind or philosophical games going to happen, you are not the lover of solitude. You are really putting a turmoil into that. So your restrainment, now only you really know what to do, or simply what to not to do. Not to do something. Till that, our mind is so crafty, our mind is so proliferating. So here you come to know, is happening, you disclaim it, you try to maximize the solitude. And when that happens in the theoretical, in the under the nose experience, it is difficult to think that will be possible in our day-to-day activities. Difficult to think when it is open nights. But once you come to know, definitely, slowly, you will develop the base and means, even in the midst of all the multitasking and kind of thing, your art is to not to get hooked up, not to get entangled, but to, as much as possible, to, in that sense, letting go.
Could you also say there is a state of being? Because you mentioned having form, so one thing was to have or to be. So to have is to get something or be involved. And the other side is just to be.
This is the way we can put into words. To be, there should have a being. But there is no being at that moment. The being can happen only through desire, only for the conceit, and only for the egoistic base. But now you know the disadvantage of it. So therefore, even if it happened due to a rut, due to your momentum, you disclaim it. So therefore, it is simply we say just being. But there's no, just you try to be, but in order to that, you are not even assuming that I am, or it is me. So that is why that these thoughts, not as she mentioned that you are not making thoughts, you are not making effort, because if you really know what is the real lover of ideal solitude, you will not make. But even then, in the background, thought manifests. So it's a puzzling because you have no intention, but it is happening. And some pains are there, and sounds are there, but you know you are inside the bunker. Things are happening in the warfield, but you are protected. Because you are not assuming them. You have no choice. So that is the way. It is not that it is free of thoughts and free of pains and free of sounds. They are there. Who cares? Because you have something to maximize. You have something to be with the solitude.
But one thing being able to see things beyond concept, like Paramatma Satya is the ultimate way. So relating to your surroundings as before, but beyond concept.
Yeah, that is the way that there is no center there. There is no center, things are happening. So therefore, it is not coming from the one particular source. It is not concentrating to one point, and it is not coming from one point. It is the nature. Things are happening. Main thing is there is nothing to worry. There is nothing to worry. There is no backlash. There is no accumulation. Things are happening, but still the beauty is you are fully aware. You are fully, awakened into that. Earlier you can now understand earlier how much you have the hooks to get committed into, through the desire, through the conceit and the ego. Now you know the danger of it. Even it happens that it never get contacted because they drop off. As and when it happens, because you have come a long way, so therefore you will never be happy with this kind of assuming, this kind of commitments. So that is the core idea in this particular sutta. The Buddha is going to explain. He says, such a person never entertain the past, never entertain the future. Even in the middle, no attachment or no detachment. And that is what he says, I call the real a lover of solitude. And he says, when such a, through materiality or through feelings, or when you come to know the middle path, with the subtle calibration, your main aim is to maximize it, maximize the solitude. Be acquainted with the solitude, season it again and again and again. So there your all the values and likings and disliking to the world will be completely, slowly reshuffling. Because so far you had so much of the attachment to the thing, your ego boosted up whenever so much of things happen, whenever so much of pleasure happens, so much of due to your perception. Now you know the burden, the disadvantage of idea. So therefore the change is, it's a drastic, it's a topsy-turvy rhythm happens. Venerable Bhante, this is happened in the second time. Bhante, after, during the meditation retreat, sometimes very difficult to recollect quickly the names of the very close friends of mine. It is unusual, or this is happening due to the shifting down, or something like that, past of the unwanted things. I don't know, some people may say it is something bad thing that you are losing the names of the close friends and kind of thing. And if you are a real ideal lover of the solitude, it is a great relief. Otherwise, you have to come back in the next life to this kind of thing, and you have half-done jobs, half-done cases. So it is going against the social norms and social values, but that is what the ideal solitude. There's a very closely related sutta in the Sutta Nipata as Kaggavisana Sutta. Kaggavisana Sutta is that Buddha is giving the epithet. All the animals, those who have horns, usually have two. Only the rhinoceros has single horn. And that is the most powerful in the world. And the last one, the stanza, it says, Bhajanti sevanti chakaranatta nikharana dullabha ajamitta. Anyone associate us with having a kind of a meaning. A person who has association without such a meaning is rare in this world. Everyone associating have to have something. And in Sinhala, කාර්ය කෙරෙන තුරු කාගෙත් රැවටිල්ල, පාරුව පදින තුරු දිහේ කරබිල්ල, සූර්ය උදා වෙන තුරු පිණි බෑවිල්ල. This is the game. We never do anything without any return. So our friendship, our relationships, all the kind of thing, we have kind of a gain back. So Buddha says that's a dirty part of that game. If there is a person who is doing just for the sake of doing, without any return back, he says it's very rare to find that kind of thing. So therefore, whenever we are having the association, you have to clearly understand our relationship is on this. And if it is so, we know the limits. Once the task is finished. There is nothing to lingering on. So therefore, whatever we keep it in our mind for the future gain. And it is raga dosa moha. That is what the Buddha says. We keep everything in mind in order to maximize the raga, the desire, and the dosa, the hatred to that particular person, or due to the moha, misunderstanding. These are the real things make the decision. If this is not there, what is the use of that? All of them are friends. And when we are in the school, there was one question here, in the social survey techniques. You please write your best friend, number 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So everyone is, one person told, whole class, my friends. There is no best friend. Best friend is the worst case. And through that only the whole trouble comes. So Buddha says, the pemato jayati soko, tanhaya jayati soko. And all our the suffering manifests through dear and near ones. Not with the people far away. Never. So if we consider everyone as equal, very difficult, I mean. And last time when I was talking something like that, one mother was so upset. She told Bhante, you are pulling the carpet underneath me. I have 3 children. How can I be indifferent to the children? So the answer is, if you can consider every child in the world as my child, then no problem. Then it is a universal love. But that love is for your child. It is a kind of a love to yourself through your children. Or you through the your good friends and all the kind of things you are boosting up. So she was so upset. She came and again told that overnight I have no sleep. Because I think it is my duty. I told it is of course duty, but you can do it without the affection also. And if you have affection, have the equally to the each and every child. Then you become, that is the Buddha also known as Amamani. Amamani means he is the mother of each and every being. Then it is praiseworthy. But our thing is very limited, and we are justifying it with so much of argumenting and kind of thing. Of course, the conventional sense that is true. But when as far as the ideal solitude is concerned, you are the very person have this kind of attachment. You have to understand the pain comes, the suffering comes directly from the same pain. So that is it is a very bitter. The truth is very bitter. That is why I don't know, it may be wrong to say that to renunciate. It's a rehearsal. You renounce and see the world and see, still the world is chasing behind you. Nothing to worry. That of course, while you are renouncing, it appears like a very big issue and kind of thing. But after all, again, you are back in the same world, but in the different perspective. So when I renounced that, I thought I will live with the only 8 items meant for the monks. So 1 or 2 years' time, I reflect back 1,001 items in my kuti. So I told, what is this renunciation? I have never renounced because early in my lay life also I had so much of things. And again back. So then I went to Venerable Jnanarama and told, Bhante, will there be any success in my monk's life? Then he asked, why? Because I told that when I was renouncing, I thought I'll be really limiting to this particular thing, the bowl, the shaving knife, and the restraining, the water strainer, and the 3 robes, the belt, this 8, and the needle and the threads. But now what happens? Then he says, why you regret? Then I told, this is not what the renunciation is. Then he told, that what you accumulated is never your own possession. Now it is offered to you, but it has as far as the dispensation is concerned, you can renounce anything at that time, because this is not personal belongings. So as far as the utility value is concerned, you can use it. But you are not bounded with to protect it and all the kind of thing. But even then at that time it was not a complete answer to me. But it is a matter of your attachment, your mental attitude to that matter. It is a utility value. But when you are living in the household life, it will go little beyond the utility value. That is what we call the affection. So therefore that sometimes very difficult to recollect quickly the names of the very close friends of mine. And I heard there's one very famous president in the United States. He was so sharp, maybe Roosevelt or someone. So one day a person came and asked, what is your name, please? He immediately consulted the secretary. I say, what is my name? So he was so concerned about the country, he don't know his name. Sudhu is happy. So that is the what. So the moment you lose yourself, moment you lose your name is the time you are ready to renounce the others. Now here it is coming closer because you are forgetting about your close friends. One day you have to lose yourself also. And therefore it says that all the worldly things, whenever we achieve something, we have parties, we are happy to say all the kind of thing. But whenever you achieve the ideal solitude, you can't throw parties. Because you are lost. Yes?
Is Alzheimer's conducive to enlightenment?
Pardon me?
Is the Alzheimer's disease conducive to enlightenment?
So there's somewhat similar to the Buddha has mentioned with the children. He says the child has the same qualities, but the only thing is he or she do not know. The Alzheimer also, they consider it as a great sin and great loss, and they are completely inferiority complex and kind of thing. They are never in a position to awaken into that situation. Of course, situation is there. So, one day the Buddha asked, that is I think in the Maha Sutta, one day the Buddha asked, how do you know and what is the relationship with your lower 5 fetters? So one particular monk comes and says, lower 5 fetters means the Sakkaya Ditthi Vicikicca Silabbata Paramasa Kamaraga Patika. Then the Buddha is asking, so you say that if you don't have any Sakkaya Ditthi, the egoistic idea, you are enlightened. But the child, he do not know his limits. Therefore for him, no Sakkaya Ditthi. But do the world accept him as enlightened? And Vicikicca, he has no any idea about the center, so no doubts. And Silabbata Paramasa, he has not taken precepts. So he can't break it, or he has no misunderstanding. No Kamaraga Patika, because self-center is not there. So, but not enlightened. This enlightenment is, you have to have your Sakkaya Ditthi and you have to do away with it. And you know that. When the Sakkaya Ditthi is there, you know the disadvantage. And when you are really slowly cutting it off, you know the advantage. So now it has become very vivid. It has become very utility, not the otherwise. Otherwise we can say drug addiction is very nice business because everyone go for the ecstasy. But the only thing is, but the Buddha says it is pamada. It is mother and pamada. Mother and pamada is very close. So therefore appamada is the thing to develop. So Alzheimer's is also far away from the appamada.
Are we shutting down part of the things in meditation, like similar to this one, that part of the things unwanted or something automatically faded away, like in the memory, or what's happening?
So that is this last sentence that says, is it usual on this is happening due to the shutting down part of our unwanted things. So that is in the 5-year system, you understand unwanted things and you give up. And then very easy so it is happening. It is shedding happens. At the beginning, you give up the cumbersome, burdensome, lumpy things you give up. And so that is to keep very precious, important thing. Ultimately, they are also slowly giving up. It is like peeling off an onion. You give up the gross thing and come to the subtlety. At the end up with nothing.
That happened one day. Last time in meditation, I sit down next to my hobbies person and I could recollect his name and all. I don't know, this is again happened. That's what I was told to ask.
Yeah, that is what you say is your mind. If the mindset is prepared for that, it is no case. It is something happened to you. It is not you did it. So therefore no accumulation of good or bad. It is really happened. It is happened under your very nose. Nothing to worry about, and it won't make much of a difference to your life also. You can directly tell your friend, I have forgotten your name, no problem. What to do? So when says that when the Godwin is traveling, many people are sending letters. So when you go to his room, many are fallen beyond the bed, he never opens it. And if you wish to have a kind of a communication, at least you have to paste your photo. Otherwise God do not know who is writing. And even if someone expects back, or if you need, what to do? So he says, if you wish something back, please write your biography or send a photo so he will collect. Otherwise, he won't recollect it.
So, while doing meditation, we heard that you usually get memory more.
Memory to yourself, memory to inside increasing so that outside drops. So that is, in order to be mindful on oneself, one thing, you have to be unmindful of the others. So that is an art. You can have both. More and more you go into the one thing, that means more and more you are aloof, cut off from the outside.
I was thinking of people with Alzheimer's disease, not all of them, but some of them, their spiritual dimensions are pretty high. So it may be that they have blocked out, as you say, everything that's not necessary in life, and they're living quite a peaceful life.
But the attendant, giving all the troubles that when you go to after going hell, what is going to happen will be everything given before the death. This is the medical science means. Therefore, one person has written in the the Times magazine, the doctor will say, we have done everything what we can do, but the patient died. Instead, what he has to write is, nothing to worry about the fellow down there, because we have done everything. When you go to the hell, there's a lot of punishment. Everything has done here, so help people has nothing to do. That is what the doctor has signed.
Necessarily a person can go to hell because the past samsaric vipakas could come at the last moment.
No, even that, there's one book called Where There Is No Doctor. And he is giving a lot of information about little more than the first stage, what to do, appropriate technology and the holistic medicine and all the things. At the end there's one article, it says, if you're going to see the patient is dying, please help. Because his troubles are finished. And you will see patient is ready. But you are the very person at the close, you try to close his nose. Not let the last breath to go out. It is not the love to the patient, it's love to your own image. Yeah. So this is why, so therefore very difficult to communicate with the other person's feelings because we can't even control our own. So therefore these are some examples for us to reflect back. Venerable Sir, in a retreat situation when one is being mindful and silent, why is it that times one has deep meditation and other times not so? Is there a reason for this? Please explain. I am repeating the question. In a retreat situation, when one is being mindful and silent, why is it that times one has deep meditation and other times not so? Is there a reason for this? Please explain. This is the situation, of course, for the beginner. Whenever the conducive conditions are there, under such circumstances, mind falls calm and collected inside. If the conducive factors are not there, mind becomes agitated and concerned about the outside, so it is wandering off. Specifically, this happens for samatha meditation and at the beginning of the vipassana also. So therefore, because at the beginning of the vipassana, just like a samatha yogi, you have to give the conducive conditions. You have to facilitate the meditation. That is why the Buddha says, go to a forest, or sit under a tree or a solitude place and sit calm and quiet. Focus the attention to one particular thing and forget about it. So under such circumstances, the untrained mind can have better chances to fall calm and collected. If the conducive conditions are not there, it is not. But after familiarization, after mindfulness becomes steadfast, slowly you open little bit of control situation, something like open eye and walking little, and day-to-day affairs. Slowly you give the natural situation, and time to come, you will understand, even while you are doing in multitasking and involved things, you can have certain amount of mindfulness and the concentration. So therefore, at the beginning, taking this as a fact, taking this as something happening in real life, try to facilitate as much as possible this conducive factor. It is called sappaya karunu. So it's one's duty, one's responsibility to facilitate it with. But that must not be the case for throughout your meditative life. After a while, you can do it under normal circumstances. That example given is that when you are learning how to drive a car, usually you go to a silent place where there's no much of pedestrians and the busyness, and you train it. And after getting the license, definitely you have to learn how to drive the car without accident in the busy places. So they are still, when the maturity comes, the experience comes, you can maintain your, the balance, even in the busy streets. So this one has to make use in a strategic way in order to facilitate the meditation. Venerable Sir, in walking meditation, once your mind is in calm and no wandering thoughts, you are aware of the hardness, lightness, etc. Question, at this stage, do we start to concentrate on the elements? Please suggest what to do. Not only advise not to contemplate on elements, even don't note them. Only you are noting left leg, right leg, or lifting, dropping, and within that conventional noting, lot of things happens. The hardness, lightness, effortlessness, effortfulness, vibrations and kind of things. So in order to let them happen in its natural order, you never note them, you never contemplate upon them, you give the maximum freedom for them to happen. Even in the breathing, or rising and falling, the noting or contemplating, specifically the noting on the conventional things, never go for elements. And contemplation of elements, of course, is going against the grain. Best thing is to let them manifest. By happening it again and again, the mind will come to know, rather than your direction, rather than your pointing into that. So therefore, best thing is to let the natural flow to happen, without introducing concepts, without letting the rational mind to come and take part. If the rational mind going to come, definitely the direct touch will be paralyzed. Venerable Sir, in the walking meditation, is it okay not to have the full focus on the walking moments? In the walking meditation, is it okay not to have the full focus on the walking movements? What if the awareness is wide, maybe on feelings, hearing, etc.? Thank you. So this is also, the question is very short, so therefore you have to be, to get the idea, you have to read it again and again. In the walking meditation, is it okay to not to have the full focus on the walking moments? This is not advisable for a beginner. This is not advisable at the beginning of your session. But when you are walking, if the walking going to happen without in an interruption, and you make sure each left, each right, you can see, you can experience, not only that, you can predict the next step going to happen also will not be any much of a problem. I can maintain, like you develop kind of a confidence. That means you can keep the steps face to face. Under such circumstances, the widening of the mindfulness happens. That means sometimes you feel sounds. You hear sounds and some feelings on the other parts of the body. For example, not only at the soul, maybe at the ankle level, at the knee level, at the hip joint level, many things happening. As far as this connection to the left and the right, or lifting and dropping is there, be invitive, open to all the others to happen, but they must not be a hallucination, not thinking, they must be realistic. Then you can accommodate them. So that means you are letting the body knowledge to maintain the walking pace, and you are observing it as if a second person, the outside person, totality. Then it is like a puppet, or it's like a robot. Everything happening, you can see, sometimes you are happy, sometimes you are not happy, you can hear, you can think, and everything. But even then, the consistency of the mindfulness never disturbed. But don't do it. Doing is asking, but if it is happening, you have to accommodate it. Venerable Bhante, in Matubindika Sutta, Lord Buddha explained to Bahia regarding sensual consciousness as followed. when one sees an object, it must simply stop at that and not go further. In a similar vein, he had mentioned regarding six senses. Then on another occasion, he explained that when the eye sees a beautiful object, for example, needs to be contemplated in terms of gratification, aswada, or consequences, adinava, and Nissarana, renunciation. In a day aim at few, we are confronted with more than one or two or more forms of consciousness. How do we contemplate in like manner in our day-to-day activities? With appreciation for your response. In a day, a few words are there. As far as my understanding is concerned, specifically the question, this is not in the Madhupindika Sutta. Madhupindika Sutta, the Buddha explained how changing from the concept to reality, but the Bahaya is the one that we discussed just before, and it is seeing an object, you must simply stop at that and not to go further. Same thing, yet another way, even though you are an eyed person, see like a blind person. Once you see, no reaction, no assumption, and so that is what. And later, the other occasion is cited. For example, needs to be contemplated in terms of gratification, consequences, and renunciation. These things are necessary whenever, after seeing, if kind of a defilement going to happen, if kind of a unintentional reaction going to happen, there you have to see the advantages, disadvantages, and renunciation. Early stages, you are prepared, you are instructed, and you see no consequences. That is one event. Other parties, you are unprepared, all of a sudden you see and a liking or disliking happen. And under such circumstances, you are already now tainted, already defiled. There, in order to stop the trend, you have to understand, if I am to continue with the same trend, this much of gratification can happen, but end up with some kind of a transgression or some kind of a unbecoming things. So therefore, this all gratification have kind of consequences. So therefore, renunciation is good. That is because that is the second instance where something unexpected thing happen, and your mind stream of consciousness is already with defilements. Under such circumstances, in order to cut the trend, in order to reduce the momentum, you introduce another method, that is aswada, adinava, nissarana, the gratification, consequences, and the renunciation. So these are two contexts. So if you can clearly understand, both of them are to safeguard your stream of consciousness. First thing is, your effort is not to arouse unarisen defilement. Second thing is, how to stop already arisen defilements. The first one is out of virya, second one is out of mindfulness. Virya sangvara, sati sangvara. Virya sangvara is not allowing unarisen defilements to arise. It's like a parapet wall around the city. And the second one is the sati sangvara. There are some already bad elements inside the city, so you have a spy service. Observe what is available now inside it and assure the security of the city. So that is called Virya Sati Samvara. So these are two concepts, two contexts. Venerable Sir, how can we maintain our awareness at the breath when it becomes subtle or cannot be seen? During your talk yesterday, you mentioned 3 techniques. One, to time yourself and see how long you can stay in that concentration. Could you please give clarity the other 2 techniques given? Other 2, one is that, for example, now the moon is in the gaining side. So when you go to the waning side, you can see sometimes the moon, and while it is in the bright side, sun going to rise. And when the sun is coming, slowly moon disappears. And at a time, it is no more noticeable. And that is more true together with the stars. If you observe a star, when the sun comes, it dwindles off and disappears. So if you are sharp enough, exactly the star disappears, the breath disappears, you have to mark the moment where it is noticeable, change into unnoticeable. That moment is a thought moment, so it's a very sharp you have to be. At that moment you have to look, you can't look up and down, you have to maintain the observance or the vigilance and the diligence to the last drop of the star. Likewise, you have to mark the end of the last drop of the breath, last drop of the feeling of the breath, or the perception of breath. And now you know up to that moment it is yes, now no. That is a very good threshold or kind of a mark. You have to be sharp. Don't let it happen as an accident. At the beginning it has an accident. But when you are developing the mastery, bring it to the... And then the other one is, after this period, again the breath going to happen. Or one or the other object going to happen. There also you have to mark or you have to be aware of. So this is very micro level of training. Macro level you can do when you are falling into sleep in the each and every day. You have to observe from the gross active body, you go and lie down on the bed, and then the frozen and the kind of a freezing happens. Ultimately the attention will come and confine to the head, and then to the eyes, and then at a time drops off. So if you try to be aware of it, that's a one kind. And the next day morning, soon you wake up, you will understand you are not open your eyes, but the mind waken up. And then you can open eyes mindfully. So that means awakening and opening eyes is 2 things. So much you must be sharp. And there you can see just before awakening, no self. Soon you awaken, you take the orientation and refix your ego. And that happens sometimes with open eye, or you can do it without opening eyes also. So these 2 are the macro level you can train, even not in the meditative mood. And then you can understand when the breath is disappearing, you have to be very sharp and well focused, well prepared to see the last. And when it is reappearing, again you must be very sharp, just like seeing the beginning of the breath and the end of the breath. So these are the things to make fine tuning in order to. This is a kind of appreciation of the same. That's it. No more than anything. You appreciate. Otherwise, you entertain doubts. The fear can happen. Falling into sleep happens. So when this kind of mastery happening, you be rather vigilant. You will be observing very closely. Don't let the awareness to slip. Venerable Sir, as I am just getting used to your accent, could you please clarify? Agile, briefly, the focus of the interview. so that I can understand more clearly what aspect of the meditation practice we will focus on. Venerable Sir, as I am just getting used to your accent, could you please clarify briefly the focus of the interview? The focus of the interview is basically to understand what you perceive by the object. Object may happen, objects are happening. You have to tell which one is the one you adverted, which one is the one you noted or observed out of this everything, and what did you perceive, how do you experience it. That you experience is the what going to explain what really happened. So therefore you have to tell the object, and whether you are, object means that when the whole phenomena is happening, whether you are aware of the, for example, in-breath or out-breath, that means the object is out-breath. Are you, since it is your primary, are you really upon it, or mind is wanders off not? If it is not, you will say, when the in-breath happens, I am aware of it, and this is what I experience. And when the out-breath happens, are you on the out-breath happening, or with the mind, is the mind is wandering off? If it is not so, if you really be with the out-breath, what did you experience? Something like the compare to the out-breath and in-breath, in-breath to the out-breath. So this is the exact way, and that is related to the walking meditation also. When and where each left step happen, are you aware of it? What did you come to know? And in the day-to-day activities also, it's very tricky then. At a time you become a seer, at a time you become a hearer, at a time you become a person smelling, touching, tasting. Are you aware of it? When it is changing in the fast manner, so many the events where you socialized or doing lot of specially talking, very difficult to do it. So you have to get incidents where you are confined to yourself. You can do little slowly and see how fast your mind adverting into different objects, and leave aside what you perceive. At least if you can keep the track with, that's a great achievement. But in sitting, in the interview guidelines it has mentioned, tell the object, are you, when the object happens, are you really vigilant, diligent upon that, and what did you come to know? So this is appear like too much technical for some people. This is applicable rather to the insight-based yogis. Those who are more toward the samatha concentration, it appear like a little too much. So therefore, very difficult to prescribe this method in general. That if they come to know, if the yogi or the teacher come to know the tendency, whenever the vipassana tendency happen, this become very effective. On that sense, there are 4 kinds of yogis. Some are very good in meditation, but they can't report. There are some other type, very good meditation, they can report. There's a kind, they can't meditate, they can't report, but there are cunning type, not meditating and reporting very well. Because they have read books and kind of thing, they come and say, today I went to that jnana, this jnana, and then you have to understand it is a wrong track. But when someone is explaining the really experience, no extravagance, easily communication happen. So therefore this is meant for those who can meditate but can't communicate. That is how the given aphorisms and methods and all the kind of thing. So very difficult to generalize over all the 4 kinds.
I think I read the PDF version of the instructions. Do you want me to take them?
No, that is what we have, that printed form. that international retreat, this thing. So one person after the international retreat told, this is very precise, very good. The other person came and told, that book is very good if it is not available that page. Because it is too sharp, it is too directing, and it is, it's too technical, too scientific. Like. So that is why, that is because that it is, all the 4 kinds of yogis can't make you sit. Specifically those who are going to the samatha, I found even samatha teachers, they hate this. They don't like that kind of thing. Because this is improving the inquiring mind, the inquisitive nature. But in samatha it is not a must. So therefore it is not generally applicable for everyone, but those who wish, the Raman is having some spare copies, so they can borrow it and keep it for their own copy, as their own copy. When we do vipassana meditation and when pain or some kind of irritation arise, do we label and watch them as pain, or irritation, etc., or watch them closely until they disappear? Please advise. Even though we are doing a vipassana meditation, early part or the beginning, we have to develop certain amount of mindfulness and the concentration. So therefore, early few minutes in your sitting, or sometimes early few sittings in your meditation career, basically aimed at concentration. That is the way you get aligned with, and you are preparing for your mind to the future development. So, as far as concentration meditation is concerned, often you are being introduced with the primary object. With respect to primary object also, only we maximize the time keeping the primary object face to face and close association, and then only the familiarization arises, so that concentration can set in. So now the pain and the irritation happen. So there you have to take this as a comparison. Today in the talk I try to mention, our perception is such. The in-breath we can perceive after it has come to a certain grossness, certain maturity, then only we can perceive. Up to that it is coming, we don't know. And after that disappearing, going below our perception level is a cap. So that means there's a range at our starting perception, starting sensitivity. So that means we'll say 30%. We can, beyond the 30%, 40, 45, we can feel. But up to the 30%, we can't. Because our sensitivity at the 30, for an example. So now when we are observing the rising and falling, or in-breath and out-breath, a pain arises. When the pain also come up to the 30s, it is not much of a problem. It is there, and you know it, but it is in the increasing trend maybe, but still your primary object is the most prominent thing comparatively. Under such circumstances, if you are going to note the pain, you are giving more appreciation to the pain than the primary object. So therefore do not note. Not necessary. You make the primary object as a pivot. Observe very closely the primary object. Sometimes it says, in order to not to worry about the oncoming, arising pain, you note the primary object very closely. Rising, 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 falling, falling, falling. Or in, out, out, out. Supposing when the both are coming in parallel, still it says, give the priority to the primary object. But sometimes go beyond. And that is the point you have to note, because when the pain becomes more prominent, naturally your attention drops from the primary object. Under such circumstances, you have to understand how pain has overridden, it has overpowered, and there your attention must be shifted from the touching point of the nose to the paining point, where the pain is there, and keep in the mind over there, not the pain, pain, pain. But still not to wipe it off, not to get rid of that. You just try to see the natural characteristics of the pain. how it is appears. Because so far you are comparing how is the in-breath and out-breath differences or discrimination. Now you are going to see, with respect to the in-breath and out-breath, what are the characteristics of the pain. It is cutting like, or burning like, or piercing like, or it's a mass, or it's a 1 point, or it's moving. All these things you have to observe. But still if it is increasing, then not the problem. Then you become tensed and you become worked up because you have no chance to go to the in-breath, out-breath because this is coming. Under such circumstances, sometimes you have to compromise, releasing the paining point and go back to the breath if possible. Sometimes if it is excruciating or if it is unbearable, you have to get up and go. There is no other way. So therefore, it's simply very difficult to answer this unless otherwise I give a comparison like this. So therefore, whenever the pain is going to overcome, when the irritation is going to overcome, till that, give the priority to the primary object. Just forget about the secondary object, the pain or irritation. When it is coming, overcoming, to note it, but not to get rid of. Then the underlying tendency of the hatred can come. Then you will suffer a lot. So the Buddha says the pain is like a dart. So he says it is painful, yes, when the dart happens. But if there's a second dart happening on the same point, then unbearable. The second dart, Buddha says, is the hatred towards the pain. Pain itself is unwelcome thing. But naturally what happens is whenever the pain happens, our conditioning is such, we hate it. We try to wipe it off. That hatred aggravates the situation, you succumb to the situation. So you must be sharp, not only observe the pain, but to see the tension, the irritation, the negative element or hatred towards the pain. So therefore you must not try to get rid of that. If it is so, you are fertilizing or you are promoting the hate. Bhante, with much respect, is it by realizing the reality of the five aggregate that we approach the cessation of the wrong view of self, Sakkaya Ditthi? Yes, that is the way understanding the amount of complications we are making. And understanding very complication is the way out, and it is the foresight, it is the correct view, so that we will be away from the burden of that misunderstanding. Venerable Bhante, what is the role or place of the Metta Bhavana in attaining Nibbana or dejecting defilements? Metta Bhavana is, it is recommended for the hateful character, because that is the balming effect or soothing effect, lubricating effect. Whenever there is a hatred happens, or if as a hatred as a defilement, or as a nivarana means preventing nibbana, that is called neyavarana. If the hatred is a neyavarana, under such specific condition, metta bhavana you can apply, but even that not to completely get rid of the hatred, but to suppress it and make the stream of consciousness free flow contemplation. But the metta cannot be removed, all the kind of defilements, and meanwhile there's one thing you have to understand, the lust can be appear in a perverted manner in terms of metta. So if you do not know it, you may call it and you may recognize it as metta, but ultimately you will get trapped into the lust. So therefore metta has a danger, unless otherwise you are using it for utility value. So therefore it is not a completely universally recommendable one. It has the universal, it has applicable the utility value for those hateful characters, or whenever you have unmanageable amount of hate. That's a kind of way, but it's also a samatha technique. Dear Bhante, kindly explain the meaning of bhavatanha and vibhavatanha. Thank you, with blessings of the Triple Gem. When we were in the, I think in the Candlebark, the last retreat also this question came. I leave it aside for when the appropriate time comes. The second day that I was prepared, exactly the same day, the question asked, Bhante, did you remember that you leave aside the question, are you ready at least to give today? So I was ready a little bit, so that it was a... so in order to explain bhavatanha, vibhavatanha, you have to take the kamatanha also. That is to make the whole picture. The kamatanha means sensuous pleasure. That means you are concerned about your pleasure with respect to your eye, ear, nose, tongue and the body. Or maybe mental. So that is individualistic, kamatanha. But whenever you think about the pleasure or happiness of seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, and thinking of your dear and near ones, that become bhavatanha. It's beyond your capacity, beyond your skin level. Up to your skin level, so-called internal thing, is kamatanha. But whenever you are entertaining good thing, you feel like sharing it with my mother, sharing it with my father, children, the teacher, and all the kind of thing. So that is called bhavatanha. So it appear like very benevolent, very compassionate, and very Samaritan kind of idea. But as far as you are limited to the kamatanha, there's a probability to achieve it higher than the bhavatanha, because it is large in scale. The whole family, the whole society, whole village, whole country like that. So when you are trying to do it, the opportunity to failure or obstacles are more. But if you are not mature enough, if you are not prepared, whenever the obstacles happen, you will justify telling, I am sacrificing my own happiness. I am trying to make my dear and near one happy, but someone is blocking. Some element is blocking. So ultimately, in order to maximize the happiness to your dear and near one, you hate that person who is blocking it. That hatred is the vibhavatanha. You are with a good idea, good plan, but you don't know it is also bhavatanha. Whenever it is upset, whenever it is obstructed, disturbed, you hate that element which is making distractions, disturbances, that is very, very virulent. You can go at any nasty level to destroy that element. So therefore the tanha immediately become a desire, immediately become a hatred. So bhavatanha, vibhavatanha shift very quickly beyond your control. You don't know how it happens. So therefore kamatanha within your capacity. Bhavatanha, it is the dear and near ones, and your nation, your country, all the kind of thing. And whenever it is not fulfilled, your hatred towards the element it could be understand as a vibhavatanha. So therefore bhavatanha to vibhavatanha transfer is a very swift, very electric, very quick, very difficult to control. So therefore at the beginning the Buddha says, try to control kamatanha. That is, you go to a solitude place, renounce from your dear and near ones and go and try your best to deal with the Kama Tanna, and to a certain extent you can do it. And then you have to understand, if it is difficult even to achieve this Kama Tanna, the opposite of Kama Tanna is one-pointedness. The feature, the manifestation of Kama Tanna is multivarious objects, multivarious shapes, multivarious tastes, multivarious the different postures. One-pointedness, you are contented with one particular limited amount. So when that happens, you will understand the profundity and the enormity of this Bhavatanna. So there you have to establish yourself as much as possible on the Kamatanna, and with the limited capacity, Bhavatanna, you have to consider not in materialistic terms, but in giving them giving in terms of proper Dhamma, giving them in the proper instructions how to manage themselves, rather than you are going to give materialistic thing. And then always it is objected with the Vibhavatanna, so the problem. So therefore it is very difficult to socialize this Vipassana concept, unless otherwise you give the technique. You can't give your Vipassana experience to another person. Only you can give with the materialistic win. This is always challenge. Always it is obstructed by something. Due to a misunderstanding, you personify it, and the hatred can come. So therefore it is it's a perverted situation, very difficult to understand.
And the proliferation of the mind could also be classified as karma. Proliferations of the mind.
Yeah, proliferation that how can I get tomorrow? How can I, when I go to other places also, you are concerned about your own the sensuous pleasure. Yeah, the ideas is that now I have it, how can I get it tomorrow? Now I am here in the Perth, how can I get it when I go back in there also? So it is concern only your. So this is also Kama Tanna, but it's proliferating. But when it comes to the Bhavatanna, no limits. Because you have a lot of things to fulfill, and there are a lot of obstacles. So you get more and more attracted to the Kama Bhavatanna. There you are asking for more and more obstacles, and ultimately your mind will be pulled into two, and so much of tension. So therefore you, unless otherwise you are qualified, you are asking for trouble, asking for this tension. But can't help but the how do you call the commoners, the Putujjana, that is their main food. Upon that only they maintain Putujjana. They become Putujjana because they love this suffering.
Excuse me, Bhante. I thought the meaning of Bhava was being.
Yeah.
How can you relate this to relations and other things?
Because your dear and near one is your security. Not only your happiness, you have to assure the security of your right round. I mean, you are supporting your private army. So when the private army is proliferating, you are secured and all the kind of things. So therefore you think it is my duty. So that's why simply that last time also when I'm about to leave, I told mind your own business. And again I told mind your own business. So it appears like unsocial, it appears like very narrow-minded, and it appears like many negative elements. But there you can at least understand the sphere of the Kama Tanna. And you can understand how perverted it is, how proliferating it is. And being so, with the whole effort, if you can't be one-pointedness, and that is the one way of appeasing it, how can I think about your dear and near one's one-pointedness? It's very difficult to think about. Dear Bhante, towards the end of today's talk, you described a state of the mind that only human beings can experience. You can see you can see and eliminate anusakilesas. Please give the Pali term for this stage. This is in many, as far as materiality is concerned, it is called the space. Away from the four elements, there's a space. As the feelings are concerned, this is called no pain, no pleasure situation. As far as the perceptions are concerned, I gave the stanza, na sanya sanyi, no pi visanyi, na asanyi, no pi asanyi, na vibhuta sanyi. As far as the volition is concerned, it is called visankharagata citta, no any volition, no any intention, no any wish. And that is the case where the anusaya can come. And the vijnana is concerned, it is called apatitita vijnana or anidassana vijnana. So many Pali terms are there with respect to 5 aggregates. So that is what we are dealing one day by day, and more you go there. You may select one part is more favorable to according to your own character, but in the series you have to tackle all the 5 elements. Please describe this stage and how one get to this point. And that is the whole idea. So therefore please listen to the same talk, or otherwise last 2 talks. That is what I am always doing. So more than that, there's nothing to give in short. Do you pass this stage of mind in the progress of insight before stream entry or higher level of attainment? Yes. So this is, as I mentioned, at the end of the diving board, you can feel the spring, but there only you can jump into the water, or you can come back to the sensuous world also. So this is a advantageous or vantage point. From there only, it is being questioning you. Are you really going towards the Nibbana, or you want to go back? So this is a kind of a rehearsal-like. And that is called in the Susima Sutta, this is Dhammajiva. This is the point where you establish in the Dhamma. Till that you are an apprentice. Here only you get both the eyes open, so you can see the depth, the mundane and transcendental both. But still, a task is ahead. But your mindset is giving a fresh chance. Are you really going to go for this one? Can Brahman in the Arupa realm experience this? So first we'll experience as humans, and then we'll go to Brahman world and try, rather than think about others. So we have got a very good opportunity now. So compared to that, we have to think about how about the Deva world and how about the Brahma world. One thing is prominent, everything starts here. You can't start once you go to the Brahma world, it is too late. Last Dhamma discussion, I learned very important phenomena and conclusion. And mindfulness is two different to make sure I understand this properly, if I am concentrating my mind, sati, on anapana, if I suddenly hear a noise and my mind or sati go towards that noise, if I am mindful, I will bring the sati back to the anapana again. This is more important than concentration. This is the one word I can't read it. And mindfulness is two different things. Last Dhamma discussion, I learned very important phenomena and many important phenomena than concentration. And mindfulness is two different things. to make sure I understand it properly, if I am concentrating on my mind or sati, within the bracket, on anapana, if I suddenly hear a noise and my mind or sati go towards that noise, if I am mindful, I will bring this sati back to the anapana again. This is more important than concentration. So specifically from the vipassana point of view, your main aim is to be aware of what is happening, and when the phenomena arising, as and when, you just try to be aware. Mindfulness is just a benchmark. When you are focusing, when you are taking the benchmark, from there, you have to keep open whatever the prominence object, the sound, or pain, or thoughts happen. When and where it happens, you just try to perceive it, you just try to observe it, you just try to experience it. When there is no such a thing, you take the primary object as the guideline. In this situation, if the sudden sound happens, your mind wanders off, and then as far as the sound is distracting you, you be aware, that's all. You are not going to reduce it, or you are not going to worry it, you are going to regret about that the lack of mindfulness or wandering. If you are aware, equal marks you get it. And once that is gone down, sometimes the mind may come back to the breath, or it may be wandering off from one to the other. So if it is coming back to the breath, that's a very good situation, double positive situation. And then you start the breath as a beginner. Again, start as a beginner. So therefore, in the inside meditation, when these things happens, you make the situation, conducive situation not to happen, but there are a lot of accidents can happen. When and where happen, your awareness, your vigilance must be to see things as they are and be with the object as and when it arises. So therefore, mindfulness is the main issue rather than the concentration. Venerable Sir, Kujjuttara or some other person had to suffer over many lifetimes due to the akusala karma made by the commenting on some spitting left by an arahant. Arahant, although she was not aware of the relation to the arahant at that time, if one happened to make akusala karma based on deeds or words of a person who has developed higher vipassana jnana, can that karma be heavy, although the person making karma is not aware of the situation? So this is called aryupavada karma. That means you are really tarnishing or find fault with one of the achieved person towards his sila or samadhi or panya. So if that is the case, you have to suffer. It is like when in the army discipline, when the higher ranker comes, if you don't pay the respect, put the salute and kind of thing, you have to undergo the pack drill. That is the way it is being maintained. Exactly the way. So this, you do not know who is enlightened and who is not. But you have no rights to criticize others or kind of thing. If it is such an achieved person, the gravity is higher. In general, can one seek forgiveness from all beings? Can one seek forgiveness from all beings in general to overcome such karma, or should one need to seek forgiveness from that particular person if they become aware of the making karma? That is the way it is compensating. If you happen to, you just ask forgiveness. And the main thing is, if he is an achieved person, definitely he will forgive you and forget it. And that is the issue. If the person is making the grudge, that means he is not that much of an achieved person. And the main thing is not to do it again. It is not the getting the pardon and this thing. It is also a must. But you must understand, the main thing in our meditative life is not to make mistakes. Sabba papa sakarna. Not the kusala sopa sambada. It is not a matter of making merits. But you must be, first do no harm. That is the main issue in the yogic life. So therefore, each and every physical and verbal deeds, you must be aware of, you must be diligent, you must be mindful as much as possible. Otherwise, this kind of consequences can happen. Can the person with the developed mind forgive all beings in general so that others, individuals make bad karma, won't suffer badly due to their unawareness of the situation? You are asking wholesale business. That is not possible. So you have to enter retail business or mind your own business. These are the two methods that the Buddha can't give the whole underwrite kind of a statement. So that is not the case. So this is to make you vigilant. This is to make you diligent. So therefore, whether you are relating with a higher being or lower being, you have to be concerned.
Although the forgiveness is given, the effect of the karma will be there anyways.
No. So if the forgiven, the Buddha says that is the life of the sasana. Person understand the mistake, go and ask the forgiveness, and in future he or she is going to restrain. And that is this is the living Dhamma. His mistake is the showing the effect of Dhamma rather than the mistake. Understand the mistake and go and ask the forgiveness. So then nothing remains. So that's a beauty of it. But you must say that he or she will advise you, okay, that's forgive and forget, but restrain yourself in the future. That is invariably that word will come. That in future you have to restrain yourself. That is the last result of this affair. My understanding with regard to the transferring of merit is that the departed beings must receive it for completion of the act of transferring. If this is so, are there beings that cannot receive? And what category of beings would that be? This is the general acceptance in the Theravada tradition. The latter part of it is, are there beings that cannot receive, and what category of beings would that be? It must be phrased like that, are there a category of that being that can receive the merits? Because it's only very limited fraction of beings can dwell upon others' merits. That is called Paradattupajivi Preta. That means they are depending completely on that kind of the given merits. So, or not the others. So therefore, if the particular being that you are aiming at is in that particular sect or area, that merits can be transferred if the other party is in the receptive position, not otherwise. But the Buddha says, in our long history of lives, death after life and death cycle, there is no one, those who have know that kind of beings, in the whole history is concerned, not only in this life. And the most interesting thing is, if you wish to know the existence of such being, monks are such a people. They are depending on others. Monks are known as Paradattapajivi Preta. The Buddha himself told, I am also belongs to that. Because we are completely depending on someone. So it is not a very dirty kind of a category. They are beggars, definitely beggars. You imagine the kind of the begging life as a monk. You just give the maximum, the best thing, and pay respect also. Such a kind of a the begging life we have as monks.
How when we give maybe to departed relatives,
Merit?
now we offer maybe for departed relatives. So if they are not ready to receive it, they won't receive it.
So that is why that if they are in a position to if they are in a position, or if they are in a ready to receive position, if we are not going to give, that we are committing something. So therefore the Buddha says, for our memory, for our short memory, the dear and near ones passed away in this life, may or may not be. But in the whole life, in the samsara, no one is there, those who have no such paradatta upajiva preta relatives. So therefore it has become a custom, after doing any kind of merit, just in general, remind all the relatives, not only in this life, but the whole samsara. Could you kindly explain the following, the difference between equanimity and indifference? This is of course something English. I am not much proficient into this one. That is why the sister also that they ask about this indifference and the kind of thing. So I think if you can read something, Bhikkhu Bodhi or something like that, you can get it. I can't give... indifference is known as callous. Indifference is known as unconcerned. But the equanimity is you are aware, unbiased. This is the gross feeling I have. The term vipallasa is perversions. The perverted way. Vipiryasa in Sinhala we call. And Vanchanika Dhamma, they are known as vipallasa. Specifically with respect to the perception, the sanya vipallasa, impermanent thing you take it as a permanent. Repulsive thing you consider as a attractive. Suffering thing you take it as a pleasurable. And the non-self things you take it as a self. These are the sanya vipallasa. Thero Saranai. That's all. Written questions. We have taken 1 hour and 50 minutes. If there are any other more questions or statements, we have to consider. Otherwise, we will be just sharing merits for the among the past relatives. It seems there are no the questions or statements. And tomorrow will be on the interviews. So 4 to 5 will be the Dhamma talk, and then 5:30 onward interviews. So I need 30 minutes at least. I have a break, and then it can go up to 7:38, and 8:30 we are going to have a sitting here. 8:30 to 9:30. And others are the normal as usual. So now we are towards the end of the 3rd day, and so far things happen as we schedule. So therefore we must be thankful to all the organizers, seen and unseen. With the help of them only things are happening very smoothly. So we must be appreciating and the sharing our merits, as well as all the relatives, not only in this life, all the past samsara. If they are in a position to see them and say sadhu, they also may share with us our merits and the skillful deeds we have accumulated, if at all. And may these merits help us and straighten us towards this ideal solitude, so that we can gain it, we can experience it in this life and in this very dispensation of the Gautama the Buddha. With that idea, we are going to recite the traditional chanting. Ettavata cangammehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu. Ettavata cangammehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata cangammehi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu sasanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika cirang rakkantu desanang. Akasattha ca bummattha deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva cirang rakkantu mang parang. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang wo ñātīnaṃ hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Imina punya kammene mami bala samagamo. Gamo hotu yavani panapattiya. Imina punya kammene mami bala samagamo. Samagamo hotu yavani panapattiya. Imina punya kammene mami bala samagamo. Gamo hotu yavani panapattiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.